Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to CollabCast with Sam and Pete. Will be your hosts on the team's technical specialist side. All of our customers are in healthcare. Happy you're here today to talk to us. We actually, for this session, have special guests with us from our partner, Poly. So if you go to the next slide, Pete, this is all going to be about finding the right meeting solution for your workspace. So I know a ton of our customers are having dramatic change during these times. You might be going back to the office, you might be working from home, doing some combination of the two, but we have asked a lot of our customers have asked about planning for the future of collaboration and how exactly you do that as the workplace is evolving. So there's definitely best practices out there that we want to share with you, and Polly is going to help us do that today. So on the Polly side, we actually have John Familari. He's a Microsoft Solutions Architect at Poly. And then we also have Brianna Mateo, and she is Microsoft Alliances Manager. So they're going to take you through today finding the right solution for you, Microsoft Teams solutions for mobile workers, for phones, for desk and office workers, some small, medium, and large room solutions, and then finally at the end, some Poly promotions to get you started with your team's journey. So throughout the entire webcast, we will have live Q&A, and afterwards, we're going to actually post this on our healthcare and life sciences blog. So the recording is going to be there. Anything that we mentioned in terms of web resources, they're all going to be there. It's aka.ms/HLS blog. So I'll post that later today. So in terms of asking questions, ask. We're going to interrupt the presenters, John and Brianna here. We're going to make sure that you get the most possible out of this session. Even if you don't have any questions that are burning on your mind, let us know where you're from. We get people from all over the world on these events, and we always get thousands of views of the recordings afterwards. So feel free to let us know where you're from. I'm sure that if you have a question too, a lot of other people do, so don't be shy. And again, at the end, everything is going to be on our HLS blog. So how to engage the Q&A panel, in case you have never used Teams live events before, up on the upper right-hand corner, there's that question mark with a little box around it. That's where you can engage with us. Feel free to submit any types of questions, comments. Again, we love to give shout outs. Let us know where you're coming in from, and that's how you can engage. So if it's a specific question for your organization, we can even respond to you directly. We don't have to publish everything. So don't be shy, reach out to us. We're here to make the best out of this hour for you. So with that, let's get on to the presentation. And first up is Brianna Mateo.
Hey everyone, thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly share content.
Perfect.
I want to share my second screen here. So awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you guys for having us. We're pumped to be here with you guys today. Like she said, feel free to interrupt and ask any questions. Before we get started, I love this slide so much because it really does highlight, who led digital transformation for your company this year. It wasn't your CEO and it wasn't your CTO. It was COVID-19. And although it's really funny, it's really true. It's had a huge impact on the speed of digital transformation projects in every company, no matter what vertical you're in, and especially healthcare and life sciences. We've seen, Satya Nadella even study, right? We've seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months, which is insane, right? All of those digital transformation, right? The physical server rooms being moved to the cloud, right? In 2 months, that's insane. And we're super excited to see that though. and we're here to help you with it. Microsoft has had some exponential growth in the use of Teams, as well as video and usage with Teams. Employees working from home now, which was a nice to have before. We were actually talking before how we would beg to work from home, and now it's kind of a mandatory thing, depending on which location you're at. So making employees super comfortable with working from home, making sure that we are creating new workflows and processes to collaborate is extremely important. And doing that even when you go back into the office is going to be extremely important. And in these uncertain times, Poly sees 3 key phases that are going to move you through the current issue and the current climate and allow you to transform that business in the long run. So the first phase that we see is respond. When the global pandemic hit, IT departments had to flip the switch and quickly assess and respond to the needs of the business by moving employees to a work from home environment. So it was more of we were on the defense. We were freaking out a little bit. You had to do what you had to do. Some people were IMing us and letting us know that they had to go to gas stations to get headsets, right, for their customers. They were kind of freaking out. So yeah, we definitely had to respond, but now that we've kind of settled, the dust has settled a little bit, we're in the second phase and we're able to redesign, right? We've been able to assess the situation, kind of work through a lot of those challenges. Now we're in the second phase of redesigning, and you know, this is the phase where we may see many of our companies now and have to consider how to safely and effectively begin to transition back to the office as necessary. You know, what are the new requirements for spaces, right, in regards to social distancing? How can we redesign and keep everybody super healthy? You know, how are people going to be interacting with the endpoints that they've been using at home, and making sure that transition is seamless when they go back into the office, and whether that be with the devices themselves or the UI, right, even. And we'll talk about that as when we pass it over to John. And the third phase here is reinvent, right? Where the planning and the investments are made in the earlier phases that allow you to support more flexible work, where the employees can seamlessly transition between the office, home, corporate, locations, everything. So, and that includes, you know, redefining what those workers are doing as well. And I know that a lot of folks have, when we work with our customers, they offer up, hey, these are the personas that we have, these are the types of workers, and a lot of those are changing every day and evolving. So it's critical that we get ahead of it and reinvent with you guys. Respond, redesign, and reinvent are the keys here. The journey to the new normal will look different for everyone, but we believe that the focus and investment on the future state, not just reacting to the current situation, will enable us and to address the current needs. You know, and creating a great, safe environment where the employees can work and transition from home in the office without having to sacrifice productivity and connection with the teammates. You know, and we do this by leveraging Poly's decades of experience. Poly was, if you don't know, was formerly Plantronics and Polycom merged into one company. So you have 30+ years of legendary audio, all right, active noise canceling, the acoustic fence technology, as well as the video technology as well. You know, that's just phenomenal, right? Being able to have the active speaker tracking and room framing capabilities at home is super powerful, especially now in the season. So, you know, leveraging us in that way is going to be crucial. But I'm going to actually pass it over to John so we can talk about so we can kind of dive into the actual technology and how you choose what endpoint works best in your space. This is just a little bit of what our thought process and how we get there. So I'm actually going to drop content and pass it over to John.
Awesome. Thank you, Brianna. I'll go ahead and share my deck here then. And so, looking at it from a history perspective, and as Brianna mentioned, Polycom and Plantronics coming together as one company, there's 15 years of innovation between the two companies, starting back at when we look at the history of the platform, and we also look at it from, I'm a former Microsoft employee, so we used to talk about evolutionary versus revolutionary migrations. So starting with back in the live communication server days in LCS 2005 really is where media started to become prevalent in this particular platform. The history of that platform from LCS to OCS to Link to Skype was all an evolutionary journey, if you will. And that evolution was really based on one particular thing, and that was the SIP protocol. When we move into Teams, however, Teams is a revolutionary platform change where SIP no longer exists, and it's all based on RESTful APIs and HTTPS. So that changes the way we as partners build devices and the way customers interact with native experiences with Teams. So what are those two ways? So really from a fundamental perspective, there are two types of ways to connect to Teams. There's the native path, which is an application-based path where Microsoft has developed an application depending on what type of device it is. It either is on an Android platform or a Windows platform, where they've developed and bring the feature sets to bear within an application setting that runs on the devices as a native experience. Then there's the interoperability path, and that is true for both audio and video. So there's an interoperability path for those existing Skype for Business certified phones as you're moving to Teams. And then there's the interoperability path for video for those existing VTCs or SIP and 323 devices that are now no longer able to connect directly into Teams as a native experience, and there's an interop experience. On the audio side, Microsoft actually provides that interoperability experience through a 3-pip gateway or third-party IP phone gateway. On the video side, they've actually provided APIs and a bot framework to allow partners like ourselves to create a video interoperability experience. And that's something called Cloud Video Interoperability, or CVI. And our solution is called Real Connect, and we'll dive deep into both of these type of connectivity parameters. So when you're looking at transitioning to Teams, there's a number of considerations. From a poly perspective, obviously considerations around devices and in particular voice and video, but there's also considerations around purely ecosystem and where you're coming from. So really, there are 4 pillars that we'll cover today: ecosystem, video, audio, and then personal devices that can span both. From an ecosystem perspective, predominantly speaking, a majority of these customers and you in general are probably coming from Skype for Business. And it could be Skype for Business Online or it could be Skype for Business Server. But that's a natural migration, obviously, from Skype to Teams. But we can't ignore the fact that there are some competitive takeouts, for example, of whether it's Webex Teams or Slack or another platform that are migrating over to the Teams experience. In particular, from a Skype perspective, we have to consider coexistent modes, and there are a number of different coexistence modes that customers can be in as they progress in their journey from Skype to Teams. Islands mode's probably the most common one, but there are others that are meetings mode, collaboration mode, etc. And that can affect how your devices and how the experiences on the devices you use. So we always have to consider what those coexistence modes and how customers are going and progressing in their journey, in particular from Skype to Teams. With respect to video, again, if you go back to my initial slide around native versus interop, native is where we want to end up, but interop is potentially where we're going to be before we get to native. So when we look at video in general, we have two different sources that we come from. And we come from a native Skype perspective, and that could be a device like a Poly Group Series 300, 500, or 700 that has a Skype interop license that natively registers into Skype through SIP. But then we also have the entire VTC world, the standard-based 323 and SIP devices, such as maybe a Poly Trio Visual Plus or Visual Pro, or a Cisco device, a Tandberg device, etc., that are standards-based. And we need to be able to have a way to get those devices into a Teams meeting, because they are not considered native devices, as I mentioned, because there's no longer SIP in Teams. So that's where RealConnect comes into play. That's that CVI, that video interoperability path, where we can take those existing devices and provide a gateway, if you will, into a Teams meeting and a join experience into Teams meetings. From a Poly perspective, we can also take our newest line of codecs. This is our Studio X line. We can put it into our Poly OS mode that runs with our infrastructure, our Poly infrastructure, and we can utilize RealConnect in order to get it to connect into Teams meetings. But ultimately, what we want to do is take that same device and flip it into a native Teams mode. So we'll talk about this device and others native devices in a second, but this device in particular it runs an Android operating system, and it can support the Teams application on top of it to make it a Teams native experience. Combined with a traditional Windows-based MTR, our version is the G series MTR. This is the end state of where we really want to be. And we'll talk again, dive deep into each one of these in particular. So first, why is native important? So native is important because that's where you're going to get the richest experience from a Teams perspective, a consistent user experience, and that'll help drive adoption across your organizations. You're going to get enhanced media capabilities and performance when you're in native Teams mode. And from an administrative perspective, native devices can be managed centrally through the Teams Admin Center. Additionally, from an experience perspective, there are a number of great ways to join a meeting, and especially in this age of COVID, many touchless ways to join. In particular, today there's the feature called Proximity Join, where you can bring your own device, whether it's a laptop or a mobile phone, into a room that's enabled with a Teams meeting room. When you go to join that meeting from your personal device, you'll get a notification saying, hey, you're in a room that we've detected that there's a Teams room in. Do you want to join via that room? You press yes, and you've joined the meeting using the room capabilities, the audio, the speaker, microphone, and camera, but you've joined that meeting without having to touch any of the devices that are in the room and just your personal device. There are also roadmap items coming down that will enhance and provide additional touchless join and control capabilities for both platforms.
Hey, John, I think this is a good place to pause because we have a couple of questions. We are also really excited. I use Proximity Join all the time, and the minimal touch coming on the roadmap is huge for a lot of my customers. But we do have some questions coming in. So one is, can you help us transition the meetings platform from Cisco Webex to Teams? So I know we've been talking about Skype, but I'm assuming you're going to cover Webex transition as well.
Yes, so we will. So there's a couple ways. So depending on how you want to do that transition, right? So from a platform perspective, obviously, you work with Microsoft to transition from that platform. From a device perspective, we can accommodate that in a couple different ways. So our devices, as I talked about from an interoperability perspective, we can actually support in our devices, whether it's this particular device, the Studio X30, we can support multiple ecosystems at the same time. So if you had a scenario where you needed to, for example, support joining a Webex meeting at the same time as needing to support Teams, we can provide that within one of these devices. From another perspective, from a native Teams perspective, and we'll talk about this in just a second, from the Windows-based Teams devices, the software actually just was updated to allow for the joining and inviting and joining of a Webex meeting through the MTR for Windows platform. And what that means is that I can invite that room like I invite any other participants, And on my calendar of the Windows-based MTR, I will see a Webex meeting and a join button, and I one-touch join just like I would join a Teams meeting or a Skype meeting. So there's a couple different ways depending on how you want to do that transition. We can do an interim where you're in a coexistence mode, for example, and use a device like the X30 to accommodate that plus any other ecosystems. Or if you want to have a baseline of a Teams native experience like a Windows-based MTR and just occasionally have to join those WebEx meetings, we can provide that too through the Windows-based MTR. And that WebEx join, just to dive a little bit deeper, is a WebRTC join in the background. So when you press the join button, you're basically instantiating a WebRTC session where you become a participant in the WebEx meeting. So hopefully that answered the question.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And like John mentioned, we have a ton of resources on the Microsoft side to help you on that transition as well. We partner a lot with Poly on the device side, so feel free to reach out to your Microsoft representatives as well. And then the other question is, isn't Skype for Business retiring soon? Yeah, good question. That's going to be July of 2021, so we definitely want to make sure everyone is prepared. And I know, John, you already went over a lot of Skype to Teams transitions. Don't know if you want to add anything there. You're going to go over it later with your offerings, but.
Yeah, so to be clear, Skype for Business Online is end of life in July of next year. Server, if you're still on the server platform, both 2015 and 2019 have a longer lifespan. 2025, I believe it's October, but I have to check the actual month, but it's definitely 2025 is when that end of life. So online for sure, there's this little bit of a sense of urgency to get migrated over to Teams. There are some customers who are still on the server platform. They have a little bit more time, but definitely would encourage them to look at their migration strategies to get to Teams to really get that better experience from a media perspective in general, and specifically audio and video. The Teams experience is light years better than Skype. Again, yes. From a migration perspective, we'll support all your steps through that journey, whether it's I'm a Skype shop today and I need to have native devices to connect, through that hybrid state where I'm supporting both at the same time and I need to have the best experience, and then ultimately where we want to be is that native Teams experience.
Awesome. Thanks, John. That's all the questions for now, so you can keep going and keep the questions up. Definitely want to hear from the audience and get those answered. So carry on, John.
Perfect. Thank you. So when we talk about native experiences on the video side, there's really two primary paths now. And if you were paying attention to Ignite a couple weeks ago, Microsoft announced a rebranding, if you will, of what used to be the collaboration bar category. So back at Ignite in 2019, Microsoft introduced this collaboration bar category, which essentially was an Android-based video platform and an all-in-one device. So in our case, it's our Studio X line, so our X30, which is the smaller device, and the X50. Now these are Android running Android operating systems, and the collaboration bar category initially was a Teams application, a native Teams application running on these devices. The announcement a couple weeks ago kind of folded the collaboration bar into a new, more consolidated category, Microsoft Teams Rooms. And now we are differentiating the experiences based on the platform. So now we have, in the case of the collaboration bars, we have Microsoft Teams Rooms on Android, and then the traditional MTR that we've known and loved for a couple years now is now Windows or Microsoft Teams Rooms on Windows. Fundamentally, the devices, this particular device doesn't change. It still supports everything that it supports today. But from an Android perspective, it does open the door for other form factor devices running Android that will be able to support the Teams application. In particular, from a Poly perspective, if you're familiar with our product line, we have a codec called the G7500. It does run an Android operating system, and traditionally is something that runs against our infrastructure. With this announcement, it opens the door to enable that device to be a Teams native room system. And we'll see that over the next 3 to 6 months. We're working with Microsoft to determine how that's going to look and certify that device. So expect to see that sometime first half of next year, a new form factor device running Android and being a native Teams room. So that's definitely exciting. Today, however, we have the collaboration bars, and there's differences between the experience today between the Android platform and the Windows platform, and we'll definitely touch on that because it's important to understand today what that is, but also understand what the roadmap looks like for the Android platform to make that feature difference closer to parity on both sides. So we'll talk about that. But initially, the collaboration bar category and these all-in-one devices were designed for that huddle room, small personal space. So 2 to 4 people, 4 to 6 people, depending on whether you're looking at the X30 or X50. And it was really meant to be a device from a control perspective where initially the first couple ways that Microsoft really looked at interacting with this device was first having a front of room touch panel where you'd walk into a small huddle room space, walk up to the panel, press the join button, you're in the meeting. Very easy. The other option was to use a remote control. Now we do have an option to provide a remote control with this device. But from a Poly perspective, we went a step further. We added our TC8 controller. So you can see in this slide is an 8-inch tabletop controller. And the interface of this controller today is one that looks like a virtual remote. And that's going to be one of the differences you'll see as we move along of experience between the Android platform today and the Windows platform today. And again, we'll talk about roadmap items and how that's going to change. The other important notes for the Android platform today is that is a Teams join experience. So if you were in a hybrid scenario where you wanted to continue to join Skype meetings in addition to Teams meetings, these devices only support the native Teams join experience. So that's another important differentiator. And again, we'll get deeper into those differences a bit. On the Windows side, so the Microsoft Teams rooms for Windows, if you're not familiar, real quick overview, a Windows-based MTR is really 3 components. There's a controller, a compute, and a cable. So the 3 C's. So from a Poly perspective, this is our G series, and we offer 3 different versions of it. We offer the G10, the G40, and the G85. So fundamentally, the G10 is your core bundle. It's going to provide those 3 core C's. It is going to be an 8-inch controller called our GC8. Now, it's a little bit different than the TC8 that I showed you. Fundamentally is because of the back. There's different cables that are required for the GC8 to work within an MTR solution than for the Android solution. The TC8 on the Android side is a single power over Ethernet connection. The GC8 requires USB cable, power, and for us, we have an additional USB cable and an HDMI content ingest cable directly on the controller. So there's a controller, the compute, which is the heart of the MTR, is a Windows IoT-based PC. Ours is, we partnered with Lenovo, and it's a tiny form factor PC that fits into the VESA mount you see. That's that white panel there. And we just mount it behind the display, and then we have a single strong fiber USB cable. It's a 10-meter cable in the box, but we also offer 25 and 40-meter cables for longer runs. And it's a single cable that runs from the compute to the controller on the table. It's a very clean design. So the G10 will give you those core components. And then if you have a customer that already has certified peripherals, whether they're Poly peripherals or they're other peripherals, as long as they're Microsoft certified, you can connect them, whether it's a camera, speaker, microphone, you can connect them to our core G10. Moving up to the G40, we just add our Studio USB device. It's again, a speaker, camera, microphone bar, USB connected, Microsoft certified device that would provide your audio, video, and audio, camera, and microphone components to the MTR, and it's designed for that small huddle room space. And then our larger room is the G85, where we take the G10, and actually I need to change the slide. The Trio no longer comes with it. We changed that bundle recently. we added the Eagle Eye Director 2 camera, which is our really powerful large room camera, active speaker tracking, group framing. And then from an audio perspective, you can use a existing Trio, an 8500 or 8800, or a DSP. So if you have a room, AV integrated room, and you need to do ceiling mics, speaker tiles, those type of things, do some controls, you can partner this with a certified DSP like a Shure P300 or a Biamp.
And I'll just add super quick before we move on, or you can stay here actually. It's, you know, we said small conference room, large conference room, right? Think about workers from home, right? The executive level home office, putting in and you know, thinking about that Poly Studio, the black bar, the smaller unit without the compute. That's an option as well, right? To have the ability to have fantastic audio with noise block. A noise block is automatic mute for non-human sound, so typing, chip bags if you're taking a call on lunch, and then the active speaker tracking, so the facial recognition stuff, and even with the masks on, being able to do speaker tracking. It's amazing. It's really great technology. So thinking about not only in the office, but at home as well.
Perfect. Awesome. So as I mentioned, wanted to dive into the differences because there are differences today in the experience between the Android platform and the Windows platform with the room systems. So today, the Android platform is a single screen experience only. Even though our X50, our Studio X50 does support 2 screens, it has 2 HDMI ingest video display ingest ports. The Teams application today only supports a single screen, where the Windows-based MTR does support dual screen. Again, Android-based versus PC-based, that's pretty obvious now in the categorization, the new categorization. As I mentioned, the control, the TC8 control for the Android platform is a virtual remote today, whereas the Teams controller on the Windows side shows your calendar and meeting control options. The Android platform supports front of room touch panel join, walking up to the screen and pressing join on the front of the room. The Windows-based MTR, the join controls are on the controller and not supported on the front of room today. The Android platform, again, really based or used for that personal, either home or huddle room spaces in the office, small rooms, depending on the size of that room, and if you use an X30 or X50. The Windows-based MTR actually can be put in any size room. It really comes down to the workflow and the feature set that you want to have in that particular room. Today, the Android platform, while the device supports HDMI ingest, the application today on the Android side does not support wired content ingest. How you would do content sharing in a Android-based room today would be through proximity join. And on the Windows side, that HDMI content ingest is supported. On the GC8 controller, we have that HDMI content port on the controller itself. As I mentioned on the Android side, no Skype for Business native join on the Android side, Teams only. The MTR on the Windows side supports Skype for Business and Teams natively, as well as, and we talked about this earlier through Samantha's question, third-party meeting join, and that's where I could invite an MTR, Windows-based MTR, into a Webex meeting. I also have the ability to do that from a Zoom meeting as well. So both of those other ecosystem platforms are supported as a join experience from the Windows-based platform. Again, I can invite that Windows-based MTR into a Webex or a Teams meeting. Those meetings come up in my calendar, and I one-touch join into that meeting. On the back end, it's a WebRTC join. The Android platform does not support that yet, and I haven't seen that on a public roadmap yet. So speaking of public roadmaps, though, there is a public roadmap for the Microsoft Teams rooms. If you go to Microsoft 365 roadmap, you filter down to Teams, and you do a further filter on rooms. you'll see there's about 17 or so roadmap items. Majority of them are looking to be delivered by the end of this year. And some of those things that are on this list will be added to the Android side. So for example, Android will, by the end of the year, support dual screen. The interface on the TC8 control, so the control interface, will mirror what the Windows-based controller looks like. So there will be feature parity and experience on the control for both platforms. Content ingest will be added to the Android platform, so you will be able to do wired content ingest from HDMI. So those are some of the things that are from a feature parity perspective that will be that feature gap will be closed by the end of the year. And there's additional roadmap items for both platforms that are coming, such as wireless casting, room controls from your mobile device. So further ways that allow you in this era of COVID to be able to touch as few devices that are not yours as possible. So I encourage you to go to that site and take a look at the roadmap.
Thanks, John. One of the questions we got is, have you seen healthcare workers using these devices? So do you have any healthcare specific examples?
Yeah, so I would say in the healthcare environment, I think we see that in a lot in the mobile carts, right? And potentially putting an X30 on a mobile cart with a and having that telehealth experience. So I don't have any specific ones off the top of my head, but there are definitely scenarios we've been working with customers around doing telehealth and video, doing health screenings and health-related interactions over video. So as folks can't come into doctor's offices or various appointments, we're seeing that over video. And we're seeing that whether it's maybe an X30 from a native perspective or using our USB studio device connected to a PC or connected to another device and doing Teams meetings over that. So there's a couple of different scenarios that we've worked with customers around our devices, especially from a video perspective.
Awesome, thanks. And I've seen it personally with a lot of my healthcare customers too. I know one of the things you mentioned, John, was the remote meeting join. A lot of these patients that are in isolation, for example, are going to be able to use those features coming soon on the roadmap. So definitely a lot here. And if you do have specific scenarios that you wanted us to touch on, feel free to put it in the chat and we can dive into even deeper detail for you.
Awesome. Perfect. So moving on to the audio side. So the audio side is very similar to video. So we're predominantly coming from a Skype for Business world. So if you're a customer that's using Skype for Business telephony today, migrating to Teams, but there's a great deal of third-party PBXs out there, where there's Cisco Call Manager, Avaya, etc. And so just like video, we need a way to transition both those platforms into Teams. From a Skype for Business perspective, as I mentioned, we have the 3-PIP gateway, or third-party IP phone gateway, that Microsoft developed and supports to allow existing Skype for Business certified devices, in our case, our VVX line of phones, or our Trio conference phone, that's put into a Skype for Business mode that can still connect. If a user moves from Skype to Teams, can still be utilized through the gateway. Now, the gateway provides a limited set of functionality from a telephony perspective, basic dial tone and basic telephony features. So it's not going to be the full feature set you would get from a native Teams device, but it allows customers to transition to Teams and still take advantage of their existing investment until they're ready to move to native Teams devices. Additionally, our Trio 8500 and 8800 can be flipped into native Teams mode. It runs Android, and it can be flipped into Teams mode and run the Teams application to be a native audio conferencing device. Lastly, our new CCX line of phones, which are our Teams native phones, also have the ability to be backwards compatible and be put into Skype mode. So customers can buy our new Teams phones today, put them in Skype mode, and then when they're ready, move them into Teams mode, and have a native Teams experience. And that's where we want to be, obviously, from an audio perspective, is as have that native Teams experience in our CCX line of phones and our new C60 Trio. So diving a little bit deeper into these devices, our CCX line of phones, we offer 3 versions today: the 400, the 500, and the 600. The 400 is really targeted for that entry-level platform and predominantly for common area phone scenarios. There's a CAP license, a Teams license, the common area phone license, that is really suited for this device. If you're looking to put a device in a lobby or a kitchen or a manufacturing floor or a hospital hallway, for example, and you just need dial tone, the 400 is perfect for that type of license. As far as a knowledge worker everyday phone, we think the 500 is the sweet spot. And then the 600 is really for that manager or executive who wants a larger screen and a larger footprint for the speakerphone. Now, again, these devices run Android natively, and we are running the latest version of Android 9, and it's running the Teams application on top of it. And from a conference room perspective, we launched our C60 a couple months ago. Again, a faster processor than our 8500 and 8800, runs the Teams native application, much more performant, and it's running, again, also the latest version of Android 9 on it. So these would be our native Teams audio devices. And lastly, from a device perspective, personal devices, in particular headsets. And this, since COVID started, headsets and speaker pucks have been in huge demand, as you may expect, as people are working from home. People don't necessarily understand, I think, how that last mile device, being the speakerphone or the speaker puck or the headset, really makes a world of difference to the experience you have from a Teams platform. That last mile device is critical. And you have a lot of folks who, understandably, in the beginning of COVID, ran out, and whether they went to Amazon or Best Buy or whatever, and just got whatever they could find off the shelf. It's really important from a Teams perspective to make sure you have the right device. And the right device comes in 2 flavors when it comes to Teams. So, for example, we have our existing line of Skype for Business certified personal devices, headsets, speaker pucks. Now, these devices are, majority of them have already gone through a recertification process for Teams. What that means is that they've gone through a firmware update and then a recertification process with Microsoft to make sure that they are held up to the standard of what Microsoft wants to have in a certified device. So that's the first path. We have existing Skype for Business devices that have gone through a recertification process. Additionally, we have brand new Teams purpose-built devices, certified devices that have gone through, again, that certification process. So again, 2 paths: recertified Skype for Business devices, brand new Teams certified devices. And those brand new devices come in a number of different flavors. So we have our Callisto line, which is our speaker pucks. We have 3 different versions depending on small, medium, large, and connectivity options, USB and up to our 7200, which is Bluetooth enabled. Our Voyager Office series with a native Teams button on the devices, and I'll show you a little bit of close-up what that looks like. It's important to have that Teams button on there for both compatibility with the client as well as initiation of feature sets. Our Blackwire line is our USB connected headsets. And then our Voyager 4000 series is another type of headset, a wearing style headset. We have a variety of different, whether it's a mono ear, a dual ear, a single ear, like the Voyager Office Series 5200 there with the single boom, a number of different wearing styles, all certified on Teams. So why does certified matter? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The way that I know that headsets can be really intimidating sometimes. I know that picking out the right headset could be intimidating. The way that we think about it is good, better, best, right? Who is this for? Is it going to be for an entry-level worker that's only going to be there for 1 year? Or is this for an executive level, right? That kind of helps from a, thinking about it from a pricing perspective, and also where are these workers, where are they working from? So if you go back to the last slide, if that's okay. Sorry, John.
Sorry, went the wrong way. Let me try it again.
But yeah, different wearing styles, right? If I'm going to be on the road, I'm probably not going to want to bring a base with me, right? I'm probably not, if I'm going to be in the hospitals and I'm going to be walking around from patient to patient, I'm probably not going to be too far from that base. I'm going to want something that's wireless. I'm going to want something that is fantastic audio quality, right? That has a long battery life, things like that. So those are things that we think through. And then also, what do I want to wear all day? I normally have very curly hair that I've slicked back today, but thinking about, okay, I'm going to have to wear something on my head for X amount of time, as well wear it with a mask, right? So thinking through a lot of these and understanding that we have numerous wearing styles is extremely important. And then also from a charging perspective, battery life perspective, the Callisto, that little puck, is it something that I'm going to have to be running into, an office with a patient and needing to call another doctor, needing to call someone else? Traditionally, we'd use a cell phone or a phone, right? That's tied to a wall and we're huddling around it. So understanding that we can bring that little guy around and have awesome calls, really nice, rich audio that's also wireless, right? So all of these human interactions is what we're thinking through. And, it's not just, okay, that's a good headset, we'll pick that one, whatever. There's a lot of thought and intention when designing these, and also the different wearing styles and how you guys are working. So I'll stop.
Thanks, Brianna. That's one of the questions we actually have. It sounds like people are looking at these headsets, and one question is, which headset is the most popular for remote workers? I'm assuming you have a lot of them that you suggest for remote workers, but maybe the one that you sell the most often.
I'll answer first, and I'll let Brianna jump in. So I'll say that headsets, more than any other device, is extremely personal. And it really depends on how that user likes to wear. So some people don't like over the head. They want to have just something in there, whether they don't want to mess up their hair, that's just uncomfortable, etc. So it's a very personal choice. For me, I use what is the Voyager Office series, which is this headset. I don't know if you can see it. So it's that middle one in the Voyager Office. This is a great headset, team certified headset, very comfortable wearing, single boom. So I actually really like this headset. When I'm mobile though, I also like, I'll use we have a one that's over the neck. I can't remember the model number, Voyager 8200 series, 82,000 series.
6200.
62, thank you.
6200, yeah.
Yeah, that one's a great one for mobile. If I'm traveling a lot, which I used to do, but I don't anymore, I would use that one. But in the office, I'll use this one a great deal. I'm actually using our studio USB device right now for this presentation. But that device is something that I really enjoy using. But again, it's a very personal choice. And again, connectivity is a big choice too. Wired versus wireless. These are Bluetooth connected devices. But then the Blackwire series is USB, so it really comes down to the environment you're in as well. If you're in a home office, you might not worry about interference or excessive Bluetooth connectivity, so a Bluetooth device might be fine. You might be more comfortable with a corded headset. You don't have to worry about the battery running out, or if you forgot to charge it and you put it on and all of a sudden you're in the middle of a presentation and your headset dies. So again, it's a very personal choice. But those are the ones I see a lot of us selling. Those particular ones, the Blackwire series and the Voyager Office series, have been very popular since we launched them as a team certified device.
And one last thing I'll chime in on the Voyager piece before you move on is the fact that it connects to multiple devices. Right. So I think that's really powerful is what are you connecting to? So if it's just going to be, hey, I'm just going to pop into the office, plug it into my laptop, great. But a lot of times it's not just that. I want to be able to connect to this, right? I want to be able to connect to my cell phone. And if I'm in the office and I have a desk phone, I want to be able to I don't want to have to take off that headset. We've all been there where we get a call on our cell phone and we're here. It's amazing to be able to just click a button and it answers that call, and then also answers the call on my actual laptop or my desk phone. So understanding how many what all do I need to connect to? Will also answer that question for you. So that Voyager series, you can't really see it. I'm not sure if you can, but there's multiple buttons on there that you can kind of bounce through and answer those calls with. Hey, if it's ringing on my cell phone, I can answer it from the headset or from that device, right? So, and not have to take something off and pop in another set of headsets, right? You're not going to have all this gear that you're hanging around and carrying on you. So that's something else to consider, is what all do you need to connect to be successful in the, during the work hours.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I have this particular Voyager 4200 series. I have it connected to my CCX phone that's back here, but I can also connect it to my laptop or connect it to my cell phone simultaneously. So I can answer any one of those devices with a single headset, and that makes it super convenient to have those multiple connectivity points. Awesome. So let me move on past this one. So basically summarizing, transition to Teams, no matter what we're looking at, whether it's your ecosystem, video, audio, or devices, we have you covered. We're actually the only vendor, Poly's the only vendor that has Teams certified devices all the way from personal, whether it's a speaker puck headset, all the way to room systems and everywhere in between. So we have the largest selection of Teams certified devices. And no matter what modality you're transitioning to Teams for, again, video, your phones, video systems, just personal devices connected to your Teams laptop or desktop client, we have a solution for you. And those solutions can be utilized anywhere, office or home. We'll have a device that'll fit that particular work environment. We're all used to being in the enterprise, in conference rooms or in huddle rooms or open spaces, and we'll eventually get back to that. So we have devices that you can utilize in your medium rooms, in your conference rooms for audio, desktop phones, headsets for your office space in a noisy environment, large conference rooms or huddle spaces. But if you're going to remain at home, we certainly can transition a number of those solutions to a home office environment, as well as additional personal devices, whether it's a camera device, a headset device, or a Alara mobile phone docking station device. There's a lot of different ways that we can accommodate whatever work environment you end up being in. Again, home office, enterprise, it doesn't matter. We have a device that'll fit those spaces. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Brianna. I'll stop sharing and I'll pass it back over to Brianna, who I think has one more item to cover from a promotion perspective.
Yes, so a few things that I want to go over, and I will actually go to the let's see, Q&A here and make sure that we send the links. But we have promotions to help you guys get there, right? John, I love the journey maps that we showed today because it illustrates, hey, you have to get from point A to point B, but it shows you how to get there. It shows you the path and what you'll need to help you get there. But also we have trade-in programs and promotions as well. So in regards to Real Connect, right, you have, legacy Poly common points, right, the group series, things like that, or even competitive, right, SIP-based endpoints. You need to dial into the Microsoft Teams service. That's fine. We have you covered, and we give you a free trial option for 60 days. And this is what this link is right here. This can be found on the Poly website. And I can make sure I send this over to Samantha and Pete to show you guys. But you just fill out this information right here, and you will be contacted directly by the Alliance team from Poly with the ability to get a license key. The way that the licenses work they're on a concurrent call connection basis. So for example, if you have 10 endpoints in your space that are SIP-based endpoints, not all of the time are 10 endpoints in the call at the same time, right? Maybe 3 to 5 are. So we would give you 3 to 5 licenses, or concurrent call connections rather, that would help you dial into that service. So that's something that's fantastic. And for the trial, you actually get 5 concurrent call connections, which is super great. So you're able to test out and have 5 different endpoints in a call, whether that be on the same site. We have folks testing in different locations to make sure that this works. It's phenomenal. So that's an option for you as well. And we've actually lowered our pricing. Our pricing used to be $2,500 per year for a license. Now it's $800 per year, which is down to $69 a month, roughly, which is great. So MSRP. So phenomenal opportunity. And we also offer a month-to-month option. So while you guys are migrating, you don't have to lock yourself into a 1-year or a 3-year contract of any kind. You can prorate it, right? Which is super cool. And if you want it just for 3 months, you can do that. So lots of options there. So that's in regard to video and interop. With audio conferencing, we have a trade-up, poly trade-up to the Trio C60 as an audio-only device. So if you have any legacy, Poly Trio 8800s or 8500s in your office and you want to upgrade those and, get the new version, if you will, we are offering a limited time offer to get up to $150 off each Trio C60, which is awesome. You'd have to go online here and fill out this claim form with the serial numbers of your existing Trio 88 and 8500s, and we will help you with the rest. So, and get that coded and processed for you. So that's for the audio piece. We also have another program for our VVX phones and our competitive phone. So as long as we have a list here that I can send out to you guys as well, but you get up to $60 off of the Poly CCX devices, and that is with the handset or without. I'm not sure if I didn't see any pictures, but we offer the CCX phones to be ordered without the handset. We usually would position that to folks that were working in call centers, but now with COVID, we've seen so many people order the device without the handset, so that they don't have to pick up a phone. Like, I don't even want to touch a doorknob after somebody walked into a store, right? So being able to have the ability to bring my own headset into the office and hotel and be able to connect to the phone, the physical phone itself, and do minimal touches is super powerful. So that's an option for you as well. And we have a trade-in program for you, so kind of absorbing some of that cost. And then lastly, our video trade-in program. So we have those visual pluses that John was talking about kind of earlier in the slide deck. We have the ability to trade those out to a Poly Studio X30 or X50, and now we've added the G series, right? The MTR for Windows, Microsoft Teams Room for Windows, which is super great. So it kind of explains, I don't want to throw too much at you guys right now. It does explain on the website how much you save per device, per endpoint you choose, but it's up to $200 and $300 off of the unit, which I think is incredible. So, lots of options for you guys, and to migrate over at your pace, right? Whatever works best for you, we have you covered. We are Microsoft's partner that hits every single category, right? From audio, from video to interop, we have you covered, and also services as well. We have envisioning services and great group of folks that can help you plan that out for your business and for the hospitals and whatnot. So keep that in mind. You don't have to call all of these different vendors for solutions. You just call 2, right? Microsoft or Poly, which is super powerful. But thank you guys so much for the time. I know we're at the top. I'll pass it over to Samantha.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John and Brianna. This was awesome. And I'm definitely going to point all of my customers to this webcast afterwards. So if you're attending, make sure that you tell your colleagues, your friends. What I'm going to do is post this to our HLS blog. Someone asked, can we have your contact information? Absolutely. Pete and I, as well as John and Brianna, I'll put all of our LinkedIns, the recording for this, any resources. Brianna's going to pass me everything that she was showing at the end in terms of solution areas. But we really appreciate you joining today, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, John. Thanks, Brianna.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.